Hey, welcome everyone. Today we're doing something a little different. Um, we got Brett Cain here, host of the Ironside podcast. And we got Cool Frasier back in the house. Um, so today, and I think we'll put this out all both on, I'll put it on my YouTube. I'll put it on my, it'll be like the audio version will, be on Spotify and SoundCloud and stuff. But um, and Brett may put it out on his channels too, just so more people see it. So what we're doing today though is we're going to be looking at some fight scenes. Now both Brett and Cool Frazier are like fight scene guys. They both have some like knowledge of martial arts and fighting, and I don't have so much of that, but so they're going to be doing the heavy lifting, and I'll probably just be throwing in some comments here and there. But I think the format, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, the idea was that we were going to you guys submitted a bunch. We made a list, and I'll put the list like there's a YouTube playlist. We'll link that from this video and from other places. But and the idea is that you guys submitted a bunch of fight scenes from movies throughout history, and maybe I think we'll start with like your top three. Each one of you will go with your top three.
Well,
Is
yeah,
that how
you
we'll
asked
do
us to submit our top three, but then I ended up submitting like 15.
it?
Just because as I was thinking about some fight scenes, it reminded me of other fight scenes, and I'm like, well, to fully appreciate this scene, you have to know these two scenes.
It's hard.
Otherwise,
It's hard to narrow it
so
down.
so the playlist will have our top threes at the top, and then we will those will be the ones we'll talk about, but we may reference other fight scenes and they'll be included in the playlist.
Okay. And I had a question before we jump into the actual scenes. When someone says fight scene, what qualifies as a fight scene? Can a fight scene is it hand to hand, or can it have guns? What's a fight scene?
That's a good question. I think that a fight scene is just anything, improvised weapons, hand to hand. Hand to hand is probably my preferred. I mean, there's some really cool shootouts and gunfights and sword fights, and you can think of battle scenes, but really a fight scene for me is either 1v1 or one protagonist against a number of enemies. But any movie with fighting in it, I tend to like. So fight scenes can mean different things to different people.
I was thinking about the philosophy of fight scenes as well when thinking about this, because it really is kind of a later invention in movies almost. Because I was trying to think like what's a great like black and white era fight scene, and I can't think of any, like other than maybe like they had like the Green Hornet and stuff, right? Like he did like judo stuff, but like other than that, like it was just kind of like you punch a guy and then like they fall back, and that's like a fight scene. Like it's just like one guy getting punched and then the other guy going I mean, you can't see what I'm doing, but imagine it. And then but yeah, so I would say it doesn't include battle scenes. That would be like a different topic. Best
Right.
battle scene. And hand to hand, I would say yes, but I would say weapons are included. I like if someone has a bat in a fight scene, that's okay, or a knife. But like if we were specifically saying hand to hand, that might change it up a bit. But a lot of fight scenes involve weapons, I would say. But guns would probably not be as fight sceney, although I would say with kind of some of the newer style fight scenes where it's kind of like gun fu.
Yeah,
Like,
John Wick or Equilibrium even.
yeah, exactly. Where there's kind of like you're using the gun as kind of an extension of the body in a way to fight with. That would probably count, but not like, a shootout scene or something like that. Like it would have to be kind of more hand to hand to be considered a fight scene.
Okay. All right.
Oh,
Let-
wait.
oh yeah.
I want to talk about the history of fight scenes.
Let's talk about the history of fight
So I
scenes.
talked about black and white fight scenes being a guy just punches someone. I feel like that was kind of the prevalent fight scene style up until basically Bruce Lee. Now this may be a controversial opinion, I'm unaware, but basically like fight scenes weren't a thing you went to see a movie for until kind of Bruce Lee brought it to the American consciousness of like, hey, look, watch this guy like just fight someone and there's no talking for like several minutes.
Mhm.
And after Bruce Lee, there definitely were fight scenes, but even still, I feel like a lot of it was like, like I was trying to think of like action movies, like older action movies. So I was thinking of like Bond through the years, and like
Mhm.
Bond, like Sean Connery, maybe he just does a karate chop, and you're just supposed to
Yeah.
be amazed by that, like, oh, he karate chopped someone, cool. And like that was basically it all the way through like Pierce Brosnan, right? And so, like, even though there was kind of the Bruce Lee thing, it was still kind of like a kung fu movie. You don't really like go and like see that in a big budget action movie.
So was
And
was Bruce Lee, was he intro so you mentioned about the American market, but was he doing what was already being done like in I guess I don't know, Hong Kong films or something?
yeah, there definitely was like a Hong Kong cinema prior to that, right? Like and plenty of martial arts, um, way before all of that. But I just realized my hand is up. We're recording on Zoom.
You're ready to
But
block.
anyway,
Yeah, that's wax
um,
on.
there it is. But yeah, like there definitely was like Hong Kong cinema which would have like martial arts scenes in it, and I guess I'm thinking black and white. I forgot about Kurosawa, but once again it's mainly like sword fights, which I guess are a fight scene, but
Mhm.
those I guess existed right in older movies, but you don't necessarily think of them as like a fight scene. It's more like
Yeah.
a duel or a sword fight.
And Brett, I know you're like you're a boxer, so you wouldn't think of boxing as fight scenes. Those are just boxing scenes.
Right. Yeah. For me,
Well,
like,
I would say they're fight scenes, but also they weren't very good
right.
until later.
Yeah, I absolutely. Yeah. And especially most boxing movies now will include something outside of the ring that
Mhm.
contributes to that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. A lot of the boxing, I mean, even Rocky, and I love the Rocky movies, but the boxing is not good at all.
Right. One of our friends recently rewatched Rocky, and he was saying I couldn't stand watching it because he also does martial arts. And he's like, they don't block, they just punch each other in the head. Like, and that's it. And so yeah, like uh accuracy in like the fighting was never really like something sought after in cinema up until kind of more recently, which I think some of the scenes we're going to talk about will probably like be goalposts in the fight scene of evolution.
Okay, cool.
Maybe we should hop into them
Yeah,
in
let's
that.
Brett, do you
Because I was thinking I have a Bruce Lee fight scene. It's kind of like the most iconic one.
want,
Should
should
we
we
hop into that one?
yeah, is that your number 3? I
Yeah,
guess
we'll
we don't
call it number 3.
okay.
Um, all right, so I've got the Bruce Lee scene up. I don't know if we do. Should I just like have it playing in the background while we talk about it,
You
or
can start it. Maybe you want to turn the volume down. This one also had there's like 3 minutes of
yeah?
like
There's no talking in this. The volume's not really important, like other than to like comment on how weird the dubbed sounds were.
well they do all that knuckle cracking
Uh-huh.
and like they crack every bone in their body.
And then the kitten meows as like the starting bell.
Yes. So what you've got here is you've got Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee, obviously well known by everyone, but essentially he's representing Chinese martial arts, which were not as common in America at the time because Japanese martial arts were more common post World War II, right? So Americans knew about judo and karate from World War II, which judo and karate are both from Japan, if you're unaware. But Bruce Lee grew up doing kung fu, specifically
Wing Chun.
Wing Chun. And then he evolved his own style, which incorporated essentially, it was kind of like the first mixed martial art, where he decided to kind of take anything that worked from any martial art and incorporate it into his movement. And so you'll see the differences in their movements as well are the differences kind of between Chinese and Japanese martial arts, and especially Wing Chun and other martial arts. But yeah,
So what's the movie? What movie is this?
doesn't even matter. This is
It's not
Enter the Dragon. It's one
Enter
of the
the
Dragon.
Yeah.
Right?
It is, okay.
It's the one where they're in Rome and he fights like a bunch of Italian guys.
So what was something I was wondering when I watched this, why do they spend so much time doing warm up, right? Like, because they actually want to kill each other, right?
So as I remember in the movie, the Chuck Norris has been hired to kill Bruce Lee. And they have character names too, but he's supposedly like the greatest American karate guy, which Chuck Norris actually was a karate guy. Like he was a really good karate guy. And I think part of it is like, you know, he doesn't necessarily like hate him. He's just like here to like prove he's the best, right? Yeah. So they're kind of like, let's get ready. Let's do the best possible thing we can do.
Well, okay, wait. I don't want to derail you too much, but I have another question. So, does the movie try to explain why they have to fight to kill each other? Like, why doesn't Chuck Norris just pull out a gun?
Right. Well, I think he like fought other guys with guns previously, like henchmen, and then like they like flew him in from America to like go take care of this martial artist. He's causing trouble in our, you know, mafia situation that we've got going.
And that's one of the things that people don't understand, you know, who don't appreciate or haven't practiced martial arts is there is a lot of honor to it. And we'll actually see that throughout this fight scene as well. And you want to beat someone at, you know, their own game, especially if it happens to be your own game as well. I do like the clean shaven Chuck Norris as well. At least his face.
A hairy man.
Not his shoulders.
No. And you also see we've got a Chinese gi versus a Japanese, very different styles, you'll notice. But I rewound it just to show that kind of the differences in the movements, and how Bruce Lee explained it is karate is the point of it is to be as strong as possible. And it's very straight lines. And he said it's to train your body to be like an iron bar that could be used to break through anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you watch Bruce Lee's movements warming up, you'll notice they're a little looser, a little more rounded. And what he said about Chinese Kung Fu is it's more like you think of an iron ball at the end of an iron chain. And that's there's a little bit more potential, you know, energy potential in those types of movements. And it's kind of how the smaller Chinese developed their martial arts to be able to fight the larger kind of the Huns and the people from the north and stuff like that.
Yeah, you see him rounding his shoulders, and I like the kitten. You even see the kitten like arching its back, and
and like the flexibility here. And also Kung Fu itself was developed from a Shaolin monk who studied the movements of animals. So that you're kind of getting a Kung Fu history lesson just in the warm-up.
This also reminds me of the UFC fighter back in the day, Brian Ebersol, and he was very hairy, and he would shave arrows in his chest hair and call them harrows.
So something I'm wondering is the scene. So the scene is kind of symbolic of the two different martial arts.
Yeah.
and spoiler alert, it's a Bruce Lee movie, so Bruce Lee wins the fight. But like, what did it take for Chuck Norris to be like, yeah, I'll go on camera and symbolically be the representative of my thing while my thing loses?
Yeah, I don't know. I've listened to a few like behind the scenes thing, but I mean Bruce Lee was fairly legit. Now some people will debate that, mainly jujitsu bros who are like, no, jujitsu is the best. But I have some words to say about that. But basically, like, I believe they like trained together and were friends. Like,
Yeah.
it's not like there was an actual like rivalry there. So
I just wonder if his karate bros were like, why would you do this to us? Why would you make us look bad?
you're seeing classic karate though here.
Yeah, Bruce Lee gets some chest hair.
You get a nice chest hair grab. But I mean, Chuck Norris does a good job.
Yeah, but
he doesn't. He's no slouch. And you'll actually notice that there's a change up in the fight. The thing that turns it around is Bruce Lee incorporating a bit of American boxing into his
Yes.
traditional Chinese martial arts. So here you go. He's doing his little boxing dance.
And I love that movement. And it's cool, because we just had Chuck Norris was striking him while he was on the ground, and then he got a fistful of hair. And now like he doesn't try any more ground and pound. So he actually lets him get up, which I like.
But yeah, like prior to this movie, like they didn't have martial artists fight on camera, right? So this would have been mind blowing. I don't know if it was to audiences back then, right? And you'll notice as well, like even compared to some later scenes we're going to look at, these are all long shots where you're actually seeing the motion of them. They're actually even slowing down this footage right here, right?
mm-hmm.
So like, they're actually doing stuff. Like you can tell that they're pulling the punches and stuff like that, but like, they've actually choreographed this. They're actually doing it.
Yeah, the later examples that you submitted, the more modern stuff, a lot of those are like exercises in film editing because there's so
Yes.
many cuts.
100%. Yeah. And so this is kind of why Bruce Lee was kind of revolutionary in the fight scene thing, because like you could have him on camera for like a 30-second shot, and he could remember all that choreography. But also
really like
definitely a
this.
lot slower than anything we see nowadays.
But it holds up. I really enjoy these kinds of fight scenes. And you see Chuck Norris there. He's like trying to gauge his movement based on his feet. And
one thing I learned from stealing from other YouTube movies as well is a thing they do in fight scenes is they keep one opponent on one side of the screen most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And if they switch them, like you have to kind of account for that in your editing. So like you can kind of keep track of the two sides of the fight. But yeah, and then this is also emblematic of Bruce Lee developing Jeet Kune Do, which was essentially mixing of Wing Chun and kind of like American boxing and things like that.
And you can really tell the physicality of both of them, and which I like. And people can say what they want about different disciplines and techniques, but you have to be athletic to do the kinds of things that they're doing, and you have to be trained to do the kinds of things that they're doing.
But yeah, and I would say this like introduced the concept of like a martial arts film and like having martial artists be your actors and things like that, which I feel like even now is now becoming a thing where for action movies they're actually hiring people who know their stuff.
Right. Yeah, it definitely. And you can kind of see, I think for a while there, and obviously there are big names in the movie industry who came from pro wrestling because they looked good and had that certain physicality. But even in the Captain America, I can't remember if it was Winter Soldier or yeah, it was Winter Soldier. They had George St. Pierre, former UFC welterweight and middleweight champion,
GSP.
come in. Yeah, GSP.
One thing, like I'm trying to think. So like the next scene we have, I don't think is until like past the year 2000. But like, I don't know, like a lot of this didn't really stick after Bruce Lee passed, right? Like there weren't any like blockbuster films that like were standout martial arts films as well.
Yeah, I mean, you look at westerns, even like the John Wayne, like they'll have like a saloon fight or whatever.
Well, you know who it was. It was Jean-Claude Van Damme took over, I guess.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, it was kind of those 80s stars, but most 80s action movies are still just kind of like punch a guy and they fall over, or it's a lot of like mini guns.
It's
Right.
been a
Stuff
long,
like that.
long time since I've seen it, but what do you guys think of Bloodsport?
I've
I-
only seen clips actually.
yeah. I liked it. I would say I liked The Way better. I don't know if you guys have seen The Way. That was
I've heard of it.
yeah, that was probably one of the best.
I would say they're just not that good of movies. The fighting is fine, but the movies are just like whatever.
So here he's got, it breaks his neck. Boom.
All right, we'll call it on this scene. Any other thoughts on this scene?
I just hope Chuck got paid a lot
I'm sure he did.
to sell out his karate bros, his American karate bros.
I like this. He just lays him down, and he that expression was really good. Bruce Lee was actually a really good actor as well as martial arts. And I don't think he gets enough credit.
All right, Brett, what's your well, but we can keep talking about this one, but what's your number 3? And then we'll so we can transition to that one.
So number 3 was Ip Man when
We're moving there.
yeah, we're gonna go there, which I think is good. Not that one.
There's
It
two-
is
Oh,
yeah.
that's the one I shared.
from
Number 5.
Yep.
For the folks at home, we got a playlist. We'll link it if you want to watch these scenes on your own.
So it's worth noting that the Ip Man movies, and there are 4 of them with Donnie Yen, are all really good. And this is based on an actual person who was Bruce Lee's first master.
And that was his name.
Yep, Ip Man.
Which by the way, I have not actually seen the Ip Man movies, but for the longest time, or at least initially, I thought they were like IP Man. I thought they were
Yeah,
Movies-
IP man.
Indian
but they're
Pale Ale.
movies about intellectual property.
Yeah.
And
And
so
really
then
good
what you'll
lawyer.
notice here, so Ip Man would have been a Wing Chun expert. And so you'll see a lot of Wing Chun movements coming from him. And actually, a lot of the famous Hong Kong martial artists have a background in Wing Chun. And part of that is because like they were located in Hong Kong, like Ip Man, I believe, was. And so like that got it out of China. As compared to other types of kung fu, which there are many. But it's interesting how well and like how certain directors really love the movements of Wing Chun on screen.
Yeah, it looks really good. So what we just saw there is he's actually fighting another Wing Chun, different school, but another master. This is the third Ip Man. And these guys, their sons are friends. They've kind of had this friend rivalry going on. And so they fought with staves, and now they're fighting with knives.
These are butterfly knives.
Turn on the audio.
Okay.
The audio on this one I thought was really funny. On both the Ip Man clips, the audio mixing is to me I found it funny in a fun way.
So butterfly knives, not to be confused with butter knives.
Nope.
Yeah, those are pretty.
So Chinese weapon, and these are associated with Wing Chun because they're kind of shorter knives. They can kind of act as implements of the normal Wing Chun movements, which you'll notice are very typically like not as big movements. So like you may have seen like Chuck Norris doing like a big wind up roundhouse kick or like a big roundhouse punch or elbow or something. Wing Chun is all going to be forward, smaller movements, things like that.
Yeah, smaller radius. And that's one of the cool things is we saw with the knives even is how they stayed connected. You know, they're pushing and keeping the blades touching.
Yeah, and so Wing Chun is all about the shortest movement from A to B is the best, essentially. So it's all about efficiency and movement and things like that. What's funny about it?
I liked how kind of it felt slow, like the knife was coming at him, sort of like just the way they filmed it.
Yeah, no, I think it's funny because on my next scene, I'm going to talk about it, which also has Donnie Yen in it.
Yeah, we got several Donnie Yens in this.
Is like, maybe I'm just used to watching martial arts films that I'm just like, okay, cool. Let's see what you come up with next in the choreography, right? This is classic Wing Chun, by the way.
And that's my, go ahead.
But yeah, like, but then I'll watch it with people who aren't martial artists or something, and they will laugh at certain parts. So I think it's funny because it's like I don't necessarily see it as humorous, but maybe just because it's like foreign, and I guess it's kind of silly.
So we see Ip Man, you know, he's got his open-handed, which is cool, and his opponent closes his fists most often, and that's kind of his thing. Is he's much more brutal and likes hurting people. Whereas Ip Man is just looking to defeat people, not necessarily damage them. And what I love about Wing Chun, so in boxing, you'll get that rotation. You start when you're throwing your punch and you turn all the way, and so your thumb starts it up, and then at the end of your punch, it'll be pointing down if you had your thumb extended. But in Wing Chun, it's just kind of this rotation. So you keep your thumb up basically, and it's just rotating like a piston. So I love the Wing Chun punches. Oh, right here, you see the eye poke. Have you guys ever been poked in the eye in a fight?
It would hurt.
Not like that.
That's called a spear hand.
Yeah, and it's not fun. And you see he's like obviously in pain, but he's also like, what the heck is this idiot doing? Like, who's gonna punch me or poke me in the eye?
And also this kind of chain punching is what it's sometimes called. And that's called 1-inch punch, which was kind of made famous by Bruce Lee, which is the ability to kind of put a lot of power into a punch when you're essentially right next to someone.
We also saw that highlighted in Kill Bill when she punches her way out of the coffin. And yeah, I like that. So I was just sparring this guy, and in like a period of 5 minutes, he poked me in the eye 3 times. It's not fun.
Jeez,
but yeah,
why was he poking?
Oh, I think it was an accident. Yeah,
okay.
I mean, ostensibly, but I mean, you have, and you'll see some bad eye pokes even in the UFC. But but people who poke on purpose, not cool.
Also, for the folks at home, I did Shaolin Kung Fu for 7 years. So that's my perspective. I was trying to find some of the kicks they were doing.
Yeah, they do a really good one when they're in the knife fight, and he's got Ip Man against the wall, and he sort of like parries with his knee and then kicks one of the knives.
Yeah, because I was gonna say some of the moves I saw Ip Man do. I actually broke someone's foot doing that. Like doing quick little blocks with your feet.
Oh, wow. So you broke their foot.
He was trying to kick me, and I just put my heel forward a little bit.
Oh, nice.
And he kicked directly into my heel, broke his foot.
That's awesome.
But yeah.
Oh, there
we go.
Yep.
Yeah, that type of stuff.
Yeah, and the cool thing about Wing Chun, especially here, is it's a lot of fairly low kicks. You know, you don't see too many cartwheel kicks or anything, even to the head, not that often. Just kind of low down.
Yeah, once again, it's all about efficiency of movement, and so so yeah, no big flashy movements, but there's a lot of these like really quick movements, which I think look somewhat impressive on film, especially when you zoom into this type of perspective. So I think that's why it's really popular, other than probably just it having its association with Bruce Lee and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Should we do my next one?
Let's
what's
do
your
it.
number 2?
Okay. Well, we just saw Donnie Yen, once again, a martial artist, right? So this is probably my favorite fight, but I'm going to say it's my second favorite fight. Just for continuity. But what we're watching right here is this is the movie Hero, which came out in 2002 in China, and I watched it in 2002, and then it came out in 2004 because Quentin Tarantino saw it and wanted to bring it to America, and he released it here in 2004.
Did you see it? Did you go to China to see it?
I bought a DVD off of the internet, like a bootleg DVD.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and like it wouldn't play, it would only play like on my computer because like it had like
Region code,
region-based stuff back in the day. But anyway, this is the story that's being told by Jet Li to the first emperor of China about how he killed the assassins who were going after the first emperor. And so Jet Li's character is a low-level official, essentially like a kung fu cop back in the day, and he has figured out where this assassin is living who had previously tried to take the life of the emperor, and he's challenging him to a fight. And while they are about to square off, this old blind man walks in who has some Chinese instrument, and they ask him to play a song. And as Jet Li will explain in Chinese, they decide to square off in their minds.
So this is like a better version of the Moriarty and Sherlock Holmes fight in Game of Shadows, where they kind of just think about what they were doing.
Yes. And so I had watched this like hundreds of times. This is one of my favorite movies. It's like top 5 movie for me. And I go and watch it in the theater, and I'll point out the scenes, and maybe you'll laugh at them, Granite. But people in the theater were laughing. And I was like, this isn't like a joke.
I think I know what part you're going to talk about.
Yeah. And I was like weirded out by it. It was very odd.
You might want to turn it down a little.
Okay.
Yeah, I love the soundtrack for this.
Yeah, the soundtrack is great.
So good.
Yeah, like here, this is where people start laughing.
Not there. I'll show you where. So first of all, Donnie Yen doing a great job with the spear there. This is like great stuff. Great kung fu. And Jet Li as well. He was a national wushu champion in China. Wushu being the non-lethal version of Shaolin Kung Fu that they do kind of more as competition.
I remember seeing.
Oh, go
ahead. Oh, I was just gonna say I remember seeing this movie when it came out.
So they laughed here.
Oh, I thought this part was cool.
No, I did too. I'm like, this is cool.
I mean, I think it's like, it doesn't seem practical to me if you were actually fighting someone.
They're fighting in their minds though. Like it's,
yeah.
You know what I mean? They laughed here as well.
It's almost like, like
and then they laughed here. This was a funny joke.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is happening?
To me, a lot of these scenes, it's like they're like rap battles or like step competitions. It's almost like that. Like the point isn't.
They also laughed here.
It seems like the point is to see who can do the most cool, complicated thing.
Well, for sure. Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, I remember watching this movie like when I was 14. I watched it nonstop. Oh yeah, I could not get enough of this movie.
So then the instrument breaks, and then they come back into the real world. where Jet Li demonstrates his skill to kill any man within 10 paces, which becomes his name because he has no name in this movie. But his name becomes Shibu Yisha, which means death within 10 paces. But also we missed the beginning of this fight scene where Donnie Yen's character fights off like 8 guys at once, and he doesn't unsheath his spear the entire time, but then when Jet Li shows up, he does unsheath his spear. Anyway, thoughts, Granite?
Oh, I think I was talking over kind of you, I guess, but yeah, I mean, I think one thing, like one word that's come up a few times is choreography, and it's like, to me, these, like, my wife watches like these reality shows that are like dance competitions and stuff, and like, to me, there's a lot of similarity. Like it's like memorizing these intricate moves, and the complication is the fun part. Like, there's probably there's moments in each of these fights where, like, if you just like, you could just kill the guy faster, but it's fun to do all the moves.
There's a great part just from a story telling point of view, right when they're at that stalemate, when he gets his sword blade tangled in the hair on the end of the spear, and they kind of press it up against each other, and they're both kind of stuck there, and right behind them is the chessboard, and because I mean that's what fighting is.
So like I think there's like an infamous scene in like the Phantom Menace where Darth Maul's just spinning his lightsaber and it doesn't even come close to Obi-Wan or whatever.
Yeah.
But what you'll notice in this is like when he's poking at him, like if he didn't move the right way, he would get hit. Like and you really see that in this, like, and then with the big jump by Donnie Yen here in a second. So you'll see this jump. He does that spin jump. So obviously they're on wires, but he has to jump over that, otherwise he would get skewered. But the speed that they're doing this at is like incredible. Just from a martial artist perspective, like knowing how hard and it can be. Now, obviously, I'm sure they're blunted weapons and blah blah blah, but still. Also, I think another thing people laugh at is the flexible weapons is funny, I guess. But in China, you would want a more flexible weapon because it's actually more durable, and it goes along with the kung fu idea of being able to generate power more in a fluid motion, in a rounded motion than being so rigid, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because otherwise you'd have a lot of breakage.
So like most spears in China are made out of waxwood, which is a very flexible type of wood that you can essentially like bend 180 degrees and it won't snap. But yeah, anyway, it's one of my favorite movies. We could talk about it for a whole episode if you wanted. But it has storytelling in different colors. So different scenes are colored in different colors, and it's a lot of fun. And there's wire work in it, so if you don't like that, you won't like the movie. But it is a really cool movie, and great martial arts in it as well.
Yeah, and a lot of people they complain about, oh, it's not realistic, but then those same people will complain in a UFC fight that's just a lot of grappling, oh, it's boring. It's like there's just no pleasing, because you do want to have stuff that looks cool. Talking about the choreography like you were, Granite, but you have to have a foundation of these principles in order to make stuff look cool. And yeah, yep. here we have a good
and
one.
I'm playing this scene. This is Jet Li in Once Upon a Time in China, which is a very famous movie series in China, and not so famous here. But this is kind of an iconic scene from that movie. But Donnie Yen and Jet Li appeared in that movie series together. And so they hadn't been in a movie together since this movie series, which was in the late 80s, early 90s. And so that was not only like this big battle in the movie Hero, but it was a big rematch between these two who hadn't been in a movie together for over a decade.
Yeah, I really liked this one. I thought it was like this one to me is, of course, the whole thing with the umbrella is like it's very playful and funny to me, but I thought it was really cool.
Yep. Yep. And in the movie Hero, they say the first ideal of martial arts is so that you can train yourself so that anything could be a weapon. Even a blade of grass could be used to defeat your enemy, or an umbrella.
Yeah, we actually see an umbrella in a later scene as well. But yeah, those improvised weapons, I absolutely love those. And it's worth noting that Donnie Yen and Jet Li both reappear in the same film for Mulan.
Yes.
Which,
yeah, Jet Li plays the Emperor, and Donnie Yen plays Donnie Osmond. But yeah, this is
the better Donnie.
This is Iron Monkey, which is a spin-off of Once Upon a Time in China. And it's kind of like Robin Hood, but with Donnie Yen instead. And you'll see there's another umbrella scene. So most martial arts fans would know these movies too. And like would have been familiar with kind of that type of stuff as well.
Oh yeah, I like this umbrella one even better.
Yeah, this is like a later one, so it's like filmed better, and yeah. Yeah, he plays a character called the Iron Monkey who steals from the government to give to the poor. What's the next scene, Brett?
Let's pull up the Jason Bourne one from the third Bourne film, the Bourne Ultimatum. This one I included for a couple of different reasons. I know you and I had talked offline about it, but it's worth noting because the first Bourne movie, that was pretty ground. Everyone loved the fight scenes in there. And there's some good things about them, and there's some really bad things about them, like we'll see in this one. So I like this from a film perspective, and Grant, you can speak more to this, but I like these cuts. I like this chase scene. There's fast movement, there's slow movement. It's building up the suspense.
Well, and unlike a lot of movies, the Bourne series kind of had a huge influence on action movies that came afterward, and even to the point where Bond essentially became Bourne.
Yeah.
And kind of this incorporation of fast cuts, kind of close quarters combat,
shaky
cam was kind of the hallmark of action movies, basically up until the last like 5 years, where there's kind of been some new trends emerging, which we'll talk about probably with my next scene. But essentially, like when you compare this to like the Bruce Lee Chuck Norris fight, there's absolutely no wide shots. It's all up close, all shaky cam.
So here we're seeing some gun stuff. And what I didn't like about this, I know it adds to the drama, is we see a couple negligent discharges because they're fighting over the gun, and Jason Bourne wouldn't allow that to happen. And okay, so right here he throws him, and now he throws a back kick and 2 elbows. But before that, so right now, his arm is supposed to be around Jason's neck, and Jason was supposed to be holding his arm and, kind of trapping it. And all of a sudden she comes in and fish hooks, and then he has time to throw 1 elbow, 2 elbow, and a back kick. Meanwhile, Jason is doing nothing. So that's the biggest problem I have with this fight scene, is that there's no it's not synchronized very well because they're doing things and waiting for the next person to make a move.
I like when he does a flip.
Yeah. Yeah, and you'll see like just there's not a cut that lasts longer than a second, So by virtue of it just being kind of chaotic, you don't even have to like have good choreography, if that makes sense.
And then he's about to punch through the book. I like that part.
Yeah. I think that was kind of like the memorable part. Like if you went to the theaters at the time and saw it, you're like, I liked when he hit him with the book.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and you and I talked about that too. So if you go back a little bit, so when he's swinging the candelabra at him or
Where's
whatever, yeah. So
There.
right here. So yeah. So we saw that. So he blocks the overhead swing with the book, and so right here blocks and then smashes him in the foot, which is cool. But he's forgetting that the other guy's weapon, Desh is the assassin's name, is still above his head. So you wouldn't like block above your head and then remove your block to hit him in the foot. This is pretty cool. I like when they're kind of tied up like this, and it looks really good from a filmmaking perspective because of the angles, because there's lots of going stuff on. This was my favorite part. I think they did this really well, where he's using the towel, and that's a pretty effective thing.
Yeah, the biggest criticism is it's like, I would like to see what's happening.
Right.
You know, and like you can't really tell, which I think they did good in the Bourne movies, but then obviously there's examples like Taken with Liam Neeson, where it's like there's like 12 cuts for him to hop a fence. And like, you know, they just essentially disguise things using editing, as opposed to just like showing cool stuff, I guess.
Right. Yeah. And going back to our earlier point, is you have to have some level of physicality to do these things, and whether or not they look realistic, it looks good. It looks well choreographed. Matt Damon trained extensively in boxing and other martial arts for this, even though we don't see a lot of that, just the way he carries himself, as opposed to like the fight scene in The Irishman, which, you know, you have some pretty old people trying to perform a fight scene, then they just don't have that physicality, so it doesn't look good.
100%. And then I also wanted to call out, this was us coming back to like American actors as opposed to Chinese actors. But I was trying to think like what was like the best fight scene like in between that time. And I thought of the They Live fight scene. And I just want to like fast forward to some of this, where it's just kind of two guys punching each other. But it's definitely like they're not cutting away, and these guys have backgrounds in wrestling and stuff. So it's almost like a 70s wrestling thing, you know, where yeah. But anyway, but yeah, when you start getting into the Bourne stuff, you're actually kind of melding the East and West a little bit more, where there's actual martial arts happening, but it's not Asian people doing it.
All right, let's go to your next scene, Haas.
Yeah, so my next scene is an earlier example of kind of a popular fight style, and I kind of included this one just because it's kind of like a deeper cut. So it's from the movie Repo Men, which didn't do well and isn't the best movie in the world, but this fight scene stood out, where he's essentially in the enemy layer, where he's trying to get through one last door essentially to get the thing he needs to live. Doesn't really matter what it is. And he's trying to sneak through, and then there's just a bunch of guys blocking his way in the path. And this style of fight scene kind of originated in I think Korea, where a lot of Korean films had these kind of corridor tracking shots, where one guy would fight like 30 guys in a corridor, and they'd kind of like track the shot. So like Old Boy is like an early example of that. And then there's
Daredevil.
a few other.
Yeah, Daredevil.
Well, and then
that.
Daredevil probably popularized it, but this was before Daredevil.
Oh, right. Yeah, I mean, like that carried on. I think because of stuff
this
like
is now like a big trend, and there's kind of more of an effort to kind of keep things in camera a bit longer, and also adding a bit more violence to the fight scene. This one's definitely violent.
It reminded me of, I know, and this came much later, but Snowpiercer. Basically, the whole movie is like one corridor after another.
Right. And once again, Snowpiercer definitely influenced by kind of this newer style of martial arts film. So now he's got the last group of people he's got to get through, and they all have different like blunt instruments and edged weapons. So
How do we feel about Jude Law in this type of role?
yeah, that's the thing. He's not necessarily a great martial artist, although look, he's looking great
He
here.
does look good. Yeah.
And I think
I'll
it's
take
done
it.
well.
Yeah. I like it. Very Riddick, right? What he just did right there kind of reminds me of Vin Diesel's Riddick.
But yeah, it's just a lot of killing. And
Anytime there's a group fight,
the
what
song
do you
kind of
call-
makes this. I don't know if we can even include it, but
well, the whole thing will get like flagged. It doesn't matter.
yeah, if we're discussing it, I don't know.
So worth noting right there that guy that he just killed plays the middleweight boxing champ from England in Ip Man 2. So very Rocky, a very Rocky 4. So that guy ends up killing one of Ip Man's friends / rivals in the ring, and so he challenges this boxer.
Who
and he's
is
not
it?
allowed. Who is his friend?
The actor.
You know? I don't know
okay.
the actor. Yeah, it just he was
just recognized it.
Yeah, just recognized him.
This was the craziest part where he screams for her to send the hacksaw.
Yeah, I like the. I never would have thought of using a hacksaw like that, but looks effective.
But yeah, I just remembered this scene like stood out to me in the film. Like it was just like, man, this was a lot of fun. And he just drags the guy with the meat hook.
Is there a term? I feel like there's a term for this in movies when
the bag.
Yeah. You have a one versus many fight. And
they
then
kind of are calling them like corridor scenes and stuff like that. Like, I don't know.
What do they call it when there's like you have all these guys who kind of like take their turn instead of just swarming?
So what Jet Li calls that is they call it noodle time, is the time when you're waiting to fight the main guy, you go and eat some noodles. That's what Jet Li calls it, which I have another one of those, a Jet Li fight.
Yeah, we have a Kiss of the Dragon.
Yeah. And so it's kind of a thing from Hong Kong cinema where it's like, you know, you want to show the main guy as being the strongest guy. And so he'll often take on multiple people at once. And so here he's running away from a bunch of guys and then ends up in a karate studio where he has to fight a bunch of karate guys.
But they're all white karate. Are these like
right? They're in France.
France, okay.
And this is a good movie too.
Yeah, I actually like this scene, and we'll see more with Donnie Yen fighting against 10 karate.
Yeah, very similar
guys.
to that scene. But yeah, Jet Li. This was kind of Jet Li's debut in an American movie. He hadn't really been in any American things. I think he was in Mission Impossible, or not Mission Impossible, but he was in the one with Mel Gibson and
Lethal Weapon.
He was in one of the Lethal Weapons in the 90s. But like this was his first like starring role in an American blockbuster. And then he went on to do like a bunch of other ones in the early 2000s, such as Romeo Must Die with Aaliyah.
And the one
with Jason Statham. And
he's even in the Expendables.
This part's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Go back to that part and turn the audio on, because it's the all the sticks. There's like a musicality to the stick,
which is an Indonesian martial art, kali sticks or screama. But anyway.
Yeah. I like that. And so a lot of people will also kind of balk at the idea of fighting multiple people. But if you look at any like old texts, especially the samurai, they talk about fighting multiple opponents at once. And there is something to it. Certainly, I've never fought that many guys at once.
Wait,
we would do practice sparring. What's up?
Go back to that guy, that administrator guy. Go back like 10 seconds. Pause it. He sorry, this
guy?
Yeah. He looks like Ben Shapiro.
Chinese Ben Shapiro. Yeah, it does.
But one thing I was going to call out is the difference between Jet Li's style and the Ip Man style is Jet Li does kind of a more traditional kung fu, not just Wing Chun, and so it's a lot more bigger open movements than what you'll see from Ip Man and Donnie Yen.
Yeah. Yeah. And during these scenes, it's always fun to look at the the background characters, what exactly they're doing, and they're doing some movements and stuff, kind of, that noodle time. But I want to hear what you were saying about sparring, because I would spar multiple people for a variety of reasons, and sometimes it'd go
we'd
pretty
practice
well.
it would be like not full contact, obviously. But they would do like 1v however many other people were in the class, and you'd have to see how long you could kind of stay up without like losing your position, or like what would be a loss.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's good to do. This is a great movie. So this is from the first Ip Man film, and it's during World War II when the Japanese invaded China, and it's a pretty cool scene.
A lot of Chinese martial arts films, especially lately, are very pro-China, just FYI, and anti-foreign imperialism. Like that's the main theme of all the Ip Man movies, and Hero as well has the moral of the story is Tian Sha, which means all under heaven, which is a saying in China that essentially legitimizes the communist government.
So these the white robe guys are Japanese.
Yeah, karate
Yes.
black belts. Oh, yep, there goes his leg.
Yeah, so karate, Japanese, kung fu,
Chinese.
Oh, the audio is really good on this part too.
Yeah, when he's getting just tenderized.
Turn it on.
But yeah, and these punches are a Wing Chun thing. The kind of rapid succession chain punches.
In Ip Man 3, Mike Tyson is in it, and there's a cool fight scene with Donnie Yen and Mike Tyson. And in the fourth one, he fights Scott Adkins, well-known martial artist and film star.
The guy who does the Dilbert comics.
Yes, in his spare time.
Yeah, Scott Adkins. He got divorced.
And then you just have this one guy left. We mentioned Star Wars just briefly.
Yeah, I was going to go to that one.
Yeah, and I would love to see that. But in talking about like those corridor scenes, we even saw that in Rogue One with Darth Vader. Even I thought that was a pretty cool corridor scene.
Yeah, and then where is it?
Yeah, there you go.
Did I pass
think
Star
it's up.
Wars?
Yeah, you passed it. It's 13.
So I heard Donnie Yen in Star Wars. I'm like, I'm in. I'm sorry, but unfortunately, they didn't really use him that well. There was basically this scene and maybe like one other, and that's like it. And I was like, gosh dang it.
I didn't realize that was him.
Yep. So he plays a blind, force sensitive Chinaman.
The Force is with me and I'm with the Force or whatever.
Yeah. And he was like a favorite character from it because he was kind of a cool character. And it's also cool to see like actual fighting in a Star Wars movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was super excited when I realized he was going to be in this. Yeah, like this is really good. I wish they had utilized him more.
Yeah, and apparently there was a lot more of him, but they cut it in all like the mini edits this movie went through. And so yeah, they brought, and then the other one kind of to close out corridor stuff and Chinese film is this scene from Shang-Chi, which is probably like the best Marvel fight scene other than I guess
totally.
Daredevil, which is Netflix Marvel.
Yeah.
Of the movies. But I have a big gripe with this scene, especially towards the end. Like, and maybe you'll notice, Granite, but I feel like this scene is so good until they throw in the CGI, and then it becomes not good.
Right.
So that put on the jacket and hit, that's very cool.
Yes. Yeah, I really like that.
This actor before, but did he have a fighting background?
He's not I think he had a stunt double for a lot of it, but he does have some background where at least the movements are fairly convincing. Like he's not totally untrained.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some cool stuff
But
here.
like this part of it is great, but then they're like, oh, we're gonna have the CGI arm guy.
Yeah, which was unnecessary. So this actor, he is the guy who plays the bad guy in Creed 2, Ivan Drago's son.
Yeah, for me, I was like, oh, I'm in on this movie because this is also like the first fight scene in the movie. And I'm like, oh, they're doing like legit stuff finally.
And you and I actually talked about this offline, but one of the biggest problems I have, so he brings out this like blade arm that has like a hot edge or something on it. And he was getting hit nominally by these other guys just with fists. So it's like, if you get hit with a fist, then you will also get hit with a blade. But
right.
So I think it just ruined it.
Yeah, for me, like Marvel always like tries to do a little too much because like I felt like it would have been cool to see a movie that was just like street level fighting and didn't end with like two dragons fighting each other in CGI water.
Yes.
Like, spoiler alert, by the way. But like, yeah, they incorporated a lot of like traditional kind of Hong Kong film stuff, and then obviously kind of this confined space fight. But I think I have to go. But I can join on my phone and talk if one of you guys wants to share.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we can.
Yeah, anyway,
we can pause
Marvel
until you can reconnect.
Ruins a good scene.
Yep. And I feel like they did that with a lot of movies. Winter Soldier had that pretty cool street fight scene between Captain America and the Winter Soldier with the knife, and they're fighting in the cars. I thought that was pretty neat. And then obviously his fight with George St. Pierre in the elevator scene. But yeah, they go over the top. And you've said this on a previous episode. I think that with Marvel, like everything just has to be like this big reveal and has to be just super high stakes. But yeah, good fight scene in a Marvel movie.
We didn't do your number one yet, right?
We did not. No, we can
do it.
Yeah, let's jump to. But for me, my number one is from John Wick, and we have this fight scene in John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum, and he's fighting these two brothers, and they have karambits, which are really cool knives. They've kind of made a resurgence in film, and we saw them in Netflix's Extraction with Chris Hemsworth, and in Uncharted, the bad guy had a karambit, which are really cool fighting knives. But I love John Wick. This is a cool scene. You see he's using his belt, kind of similar to how Matt Damon used the towel to defend against the blade in the Bourne. But John Wick. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was just saying we're getting a lot of lag on this one, but so if anyone wants to watch it, just pull it up, I guess. But these movies are so incredibly stylish. Every shot looks pretty cool.
Yeah, I think this is a good fight scene of, especially fighting two people. Two people, I think it makes for really fun dynamics, even more so than fighting 10 people at once. I remember in college, I was sparring with these two guys at once, and ended up submitting them both at the same time. Kind of a similar thing here. And one was on the ground and had one guy trapped with my legs and one guy with my arms. But this is a fun fight scene, and they tried to make it look really good. And you can tell we got these wide shots. Like cool. Frasier was talking about earlier.
Crazy too. This glass room.
Yep.
And John Wick, once again, is another super influential film on action movies in general.
Yes. Yeah. We're definitely seeing everyone wants to be John Wick.
Where when John Wick came out, when John Wick came out, it changed the game, and everybody is doing John Wick style action now.
This one's also kind of funny to me because these two guys, are they twins? They seem like twins, but they're they're quite a bit smaller than him. So it's kind of like fighting children or something, which if there's enough children, it's still a good fight. But
Yeah. Yeah. I remember my dad fighting like 10 of my friends when I was like 11 and beating us all. But yeah, this was a fun, and when they crashed through the glass ceiling here, and
yeah, he uses the guy as a airbag.
yep. And here we see some more honorable martial artists.
And so we said, like, we kind of described the Jason Bourne style as kind of these quick cuts and incorporating a bit more martial arts into the thing. But what do you think sets the John Wick style action apart? I'd say it's hyper violence, it's incorporating guns,
Yep.
and it's typically these longer fight scenes, with a bit more choreography than some of the Bourne stuff.
Right.
Yeah, the execution on those seems incredibly high. Like Keanu Reeves, he's like over 50, right? And he must be.
Oh, that's the
burning-
other part of the John Wick style, is it's a guy who's past his prime.
He must be burning
But-
like 5,000 calories a day doing these scenes. He just looks like that's so much work.
And he trained hard for that. And I think that's when you can tell the difference. Yeah. So I like the John Wick.
But yeah, the style we see nowadays is like this one we're looking at right now. Is you got your confined spaces, you got your guns, you like your gun fu. That's kind of the term for it, right? Close quarter gunfighting, which maybe has its origins with John Wick, but also prior to that, it has its origins with John Woo.
Yeah, this is from 2018's Mission Impossible Fallout, which was a good movie. I enjoyed it. This fight scene had some cool moments and some not so cool moments, but I think it's well executed. Tom Cruise, he usually delivers.
And part of why John Wick was revolutionary is the directors were stuck, and so they cared about the stunts kind of first and foremost. Like, the movie is the stunts, right? Which is kind of similar to like Hong Kong movies, where the movie is the kung fu. Like, you don't necessarily watch Ip Man for the story, although you could, but you more so watch it for the fights.
Right. Yeah, I like that when Henry Cavill gets hit in the throat. I like the use of elbow. Yeah, when he throws him through the mirror, he's not going to stand up like that, and he's not going to rip a pipe out of the wall with one hand. This is a pretty cool.
That wasn't good plumbing.
No, it was not. Well, they're in France or whatever, so.
Yeah, what we've learned in this podcast is don't go to France.
And here they're fighting the Asian guy, and he's beating him up. So there's another throat punch. And Henry Cavill, this is very boxing of him.
Yeah, the Mission Impossible movies have stepped up their game in the action department, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The latest ones have been really good action movies. I don't know about good movies, but
good action movies. Yeah. This is probably like the best move in the whole fight scene, is where he just runs at him and smashes him through very cheap drywall.
Oh, one point I was going to bring up, just like in the martial arts scene, like jiu-jitsu has been so ascendant, especially Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Now, we've talked about some jiu-jitsu movies on this podcast. Shout out to whatever episode that was.
What was that, Warrior?
Yeah, Warrior.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is, I've noticed, if you've never done jiu-jitsu, you don't really know what good jujitsu looks like, because it's essentially like it's very technical, and it's very small movements on the ground where you can't really see what's happening, right? Like it's blocked by the people's bodies, so it just kind of looks like two guys laying on top of each other, which in my opinion probably doesn't translate well to film. Maybe there's a way to do it, but I haven't really seen it, right? And so like even in fights, like I've gone to watch fights at like bars because like they pay for the pay-per-view or whatever, and like people will get bored when there's like really good jujitsu happening, but
Right.
they just don't know it.
That's what we were talking about earlier. Like they think it's boring, but I mean, it's a very high level stuff, you know, and I think that's where we get the disconnect is people who don't understand martial arts won't appreciate a good fight scene that is heavily stylized and maybe unrealistic, in the same way that people who don't understand or appreciate martial arts won't enjoy a high level grappling match that looks
Right.
boring.
Because like I think karate being kind of big movements, big open movements, it translated well to film, right? And then it became like kind of kung fu and things like that. And it makes a lot of sense to film those types of things. And now they've kind of incorporated a lot more, you know, what's it called? Muay Thai and
Aikido
kind of those
and things.
South Asian stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're doing a lot of like eskrima nowadays.
Yeah.
I included this fight scene that's on here. It's just another bus scene, and it's another old guy past his prime killing a bunch of guys.
Yeah. So this
Bob
is
Odenkirk,
from Nobody.
which I actually haven't seen, but I just heard of this fight scene.
Yeah, same. I thought this was Better Call Saul when I first saw it.
Yeah, this is Better Call Saul. This is how he becomes Saul Goodman. But yeah, so it's interesting that jujitsu has kind of been the thing to be since like I'd say like 2008, right? Like there's so many jujitsu studios and gyms and stuff like that. Like, but there's not a lot of like great jujitsu scenes in film. I don't know if you have any on the top of your mind, Brett, but like, yeah, they don't really exist.
No, they don't.
I think there's some in Man of Tai Chi, but it's also Tai Chi.
That's also another good Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
So this is a John Wick kind of similar situation where he's trying to stab the guy and the guy is blocking it. But in John Wick, he just uses his knee to get some more leverage and pushes the knife in. And that was pretty cool where he kicks the knife already stuck into the guy. Yeah. So here, hyper violence, a little bit slower, you know, and a little bit more realistic. You know, in a kung fu movie, you might see him like kick all three of those guys from behind, but he actually gets kicked when he's holding two guys. And it's kind of slower. You know, these guys are pausing and be like, oh, my nose is broken.
Yeah. And like in John Wick, there's like a big element of like Keanu getting whittled down throughout the movie. Where at the end, he's like just super injured and can barely walk, which is kind of fun and new for martial arts movies, where it's usually like the guy's superhuman and can't be touched, you know?
Right. Yeah, I am definitely appreciating this. This one was a fun one, but yeah, to your point, you know, jujitsu, it's hard to put that in film, and I think even boxing. I don't know if you guys ever saw the reality show The Contender, Sylvester Stallone and Sugar Ray Leonard. So they hosted, and in fact, one of my friends, Alfonso Gomez, he and I actually had the same coach. He was one of the best fighters on there, but in the matches of the actual boxing matches, they stylized it. They did slow motion, just tried because they knew that it would be very interesting, and they added sound effects, which kind of ruined it. And then if you see things like The Ultimate Fighter, which is the UFC reality show, they have some pretty good fights, but they just let them fight. And jujitsu, you know, I want to hear your thoughts on jujitsu. I love training jujitsu, but Muay Thai and boxing are definitely my preferred styles, and people say, oh, you know, most street fights go to the ground. You know, it's like, yeah, but all street fights start standing up. And so that's why I like the stand-up stuff. This fight scene here, we have Donald Cerrone, UFC fighter, and who's this guy? Post Malone.
Yeah.
A singer. Yeah. And Mark Wahlberg. I like Mark Wahlberg. So this is from Spencer Confidential, based on a book series by Ace Atkins. That's his new pen name. I think Robert something is his original pen name. But this is a pretty fun fight scene. And so a little bit slower. Mark Wahlberg is in good shape, but he is older, using the bookshelves. We saw some good boxing there. He's been in some good boxing movies. He gets his hands up and then just gets kicked in the side. So Donald Cerrone obviously knows what he's doing. But yeah, this is to your point, Frasier, about using more martial artists in film.
Yeah.
I like prison fight scenes because I worked in a jail, and I always thought about like, what would I do if, I'm in this pod and these 9 guys attack me? Like, what am I going to use as an improvised weapon? But yeah, Grant, I don't know if you said what to you makes a fight scene.
I don't have a theory of the fight scene. Like I don't have to me it, and we've watched most of these muted just so we could talk, but to me a fight scene generally just good if it fits the flow of the movie. And the audio, it tends to be a big part of it, like both the music and the what do you call that, the Foley, like the Foley arts or whatever, like the sound
Right.
design and stuff on like some of these scenes. It's like I've been thinking about like, oh, how much like celery did they have to break? But that's I like that stuff. So I like the texture and sound and pace and stuff of a fight scene. It just I don't have a way to articulate what it is I like. I just know, I like some that I like more than others. Like the John Wick stuff, I always thought was so stylish and nice, fluid movement to it. Even though, it's like the 2 guys are fighting each other, but they're also working together, like to make something that looks good. So I don't have a real thing, but I know a good one when I see it, or I know one that I like when I see it, at least.
Right. Yeah, and this is from The Equalizer with Denzel Washington. And I like this where it kind of slows down and kind of goes through his mind. Again, very Sherlock Holmes with Robert Downey Jr. kind of thinking about it and making these assessments. And this is gimmicky, but I think it's a cool thing where he kind of just sets a stopwatch and sees how fast he can kill all these guys.
Have either of you seen a movie called Upgrade?
Yes.
I mean, the fighting in that is not supposed to be realistic, really, because he's got this like AI upgrade that's telling his muscles what to do and stuff. But I liked a lot of the fighting in that. It's
like I actually got that upgrade, so I like it.
You can do that stuff.
I can do that stuff. So
yeah,
but
I like the fighting in that. It's like a mix of it's a bit Matrix because he's like seeing things in hyperspeed or whatever, but then it's like grounded because it's not actually a different dimension or anything. He's just seeing so fast and moving quickly and in ways that would not be natural for your body.
Right.
Did you have a favorite of the ones we shared?
Do I have a favorite of the ones we shared? Pull up go down to the list.
Or do you have a favorite other than these, like Three Ninjas?
Three Ninjas, yeah. I sent these for those at home. I sent a link to the fight scene from the movie Three Ninjas from like '93 or something. I liked the John Wick one a lot that we watched. I mean, I like a lot of like fight scenes in the John Wick films. I liked the Ip Man, when he's like beating up 10 people, 10 Japanese guys or whatever. I like the ones that even though, I mean, a lot of serious fans would probably, if they saw these movies with me, they'd be mad that I was laughing, but I'm not laughing out of like
Derision.
yeah, no, I just like the absurdity is like fun. Like I just like it. Like when one of these guys starts like flying a little bit or something, does something that could not actually do. But I like the visual of it.
Yeah, that's
Um,
awesome.
But I liked all these. I thought they're all cool. I mean, I like the Bourne ones. I think the Bourne stuff, it's on one hand, a lot of the stuff that's going on in a Bourne movie, it's almost designed so you can't quite tell what's going on. But then,
Right.
You're getting an impression of what's going on, and I like the pace of those of the way the Bourne ones were done. Even if I do think like shaky cam was a little annoying, but I like those a lot.
Yeah, and I guess I just think it's that much cooler if you can get a fight scene that like looks as cool as a Bourne fast cut shaky cam one, but it's shot wide.
And that's what
Like if it
that's
can
what
have
feels
that
like.
much tension and if it shows like the actual movements happening in real time.
Yeah, the John Wick, the style and movements seem different than the Bourne ones, but they're
Yeah.
kind of doing what you're talking about, where you're actually able to see all the moves, and it just seems like they put in so much work on the choreography that to do that, and I think it pays off big time.
But yeah. Also, I asked a question on my Twitter and got no responses. But of what was like the best fight scenes prior to Bruce Lee, like epic fight scene prior to Bruce Lee, and I got no responses. So if you have any, audience, let us know. But then,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd say other big movies that kind of influenced the scene, probably Ong Bak and The Raid as well. The Raid is what kind of popularized those like tight corridor fight scenes that ended up making it into Daredevil and those Netflix Marvel shows that kind of popularized it over here.
Yeah, even the Punisher series had some good fight scenes.
Mhm.
What do you think it's going to take to get back like the Bruce Lee quality of fight scenes? Because now I feel like there's an over reliance on CGI. Even like big blockbuster films, the fight scenes aren't good just because the whole background is CGI and it takes away, and they're trying to do too wide of shots that take in.
Although this kind of looks like a matte painting, I don't know, but
Yeah.
they're supposedly at the Roman Colosseum.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, to a certain extent, like at least for me. So we brought it up at one point, but Kill Bill, like
Yeah.
I started doing martial arts like a few years before Kill Bill came out, or I started like almost the same year Kill Bill 1 came out, and then I had like 2 years under my belt when Kill Bill 2 came out, right? And in Kill Bill 2, she goes to like this ancient Chinese Shaolin master to learn the 1-inch punch, right? And there's like a montage of her doing of Uma Thurman doing kind of fight choreography, and it looks so bad. Like, and what I realized is I probably wouldn't have noticed that as like a lay person, but like once you start doing martial arts, you can kind of tell, you can just discern talent, whether or not you're actually like as good as these people, because I'm not claiming to be as good as any of these people, but like it just like she looks so stiff and slow and bad and poor posture, poor stance, like everything looks wrong, and like you can see it so easily, but it probably just looks fine to the uninitiated, I guess. But
Right.
like I think like they do need to have the talent behind it, and I think that makes a world of difference. Like in that movie we watched, the UFC movie,
Warrior.
Warrior. Yeah.
being able, the Warrior, the one guy had the background in UFC or whatever, so it like paid off, like it looks good.
Yep. Yeah, very true. Yeah, I got to talk to Rob Ingram from McDojo Life. If you guys haven't seen his YouTube channel, well worth it. So he just kind of debunks all these fake martial artists that are knocking people out with their chi. And I feel like if we can get some kind of a resurgence into people appreciating real martial arts, it'll be through popular cinema.
Yeah, and if anyone's, so I don't know if I think I told Frasier, but one of my previous episode on the Northman, for some reason it has like 1,400 views. It got swept up in the algorithm, I guess, and most of my stuff gets like 100. But if people find this one, if you're a random person, you don't know who we are or whatever, yeah, just comment, tell us fight scenes that we didn't mention that we should have. Tell us movies that are maybe newer movies that are doing a good job that we might not be aware about. Just tell us whatever. Just comment and tell us that we're dumb or something.
Yes, please. And also if you want to spar, Cool Frasier and I would love to spar with anyone and everyone.
Okay, cool. I better go. I mean, if you guys want to keep going, you can keep going. But
No, this has
better-
been great. Thank you for having me on. I love the show. Big fan of the show. So thank you guys. This has been a lot of fun.
No, and for sure post this up on Ironside as well.
Absolutely.
If it meets the quality standards, it might not.
Oh, it exceeds the quality standards. You know, the last thing, we did not get Cool Frasier's catchphrase. I should have pointed that out at
that's
the beginning.
right. He's
And
on mute.
Yep. So we might not get it today, but that's all right. We'll just stay tuned for the next episode.
Wait, I'm here. Weapon.
Excellent. Well, I invited all of our listeners that you and I will welcome all comers to a sparring session if they so desire. And I pointed out,
How tall are you, Brett?
I'm 6 foot.
Okay, I'll win. No,
Yeah.
just
Oh,
kidding.
not you versus me. Obviously, you'll win, but I mean, everyone else. So you and I will take on other challengers.
Oh yeah, we'll take on anyone.
Yeah, you and I should recreate this fight scene between Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee. I'll be Chuck Norris.
Yeah, I don't have enough chest hair.
Well, awesome. And also
Brett also wanted to hear your catchphrase.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I'm cool and I'm cool, Frasier. Cool, and I'm listening.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
All right, talk to you later.
Bye, guys.
All right, bye.
Later.